There aren't many watch brands that constantly bang out great designs. To me, Yema is one of them. I'm not sure what it is, but something about their designs just speak to me. They're unique, they have a strong identity, and they look absolutely gorgeous. From the moment I saw the first photos of this Navygraf Marine Nationale GMT, I just couldn't stop looking at it. By some stroke of luck, Yema actually agreed to loan me this watch for a review. So, is this watch as good as it looks, or is its beauty only skin deep? If you're not familiar with Yema, they're a French brand that's been around since the 1950s. They have a ton of collaborations for their current model lineup, most notably with the French Armed Forces, France Space Agency, and even a motorsports team. The Navygraf GMT is designed with and supplied to the French Navy, also known as Marine Nationale, which is where this watch gets its name from. Yema completely redesigned this case from the ground up, and the end result is a thing of neo-vintage beauty. It has a combination of finely brushed surfaces and beautiful chamfers on the sides. The case detail and finishing here are top notch. The side case has an elegant curve from the middle towards the lugs. It wears very comfortably on wrists, and with those compact dimensions, I'm sure this watch is going to fit most wrist sizes. The screw down crown is signed with the Marine Nationale emblem. The knurling is very grippy and it feels very smooth to screw in and out of the case. The bezel has Yema's signature look, with that thin grip at the top. The bicolor 24-hour insert is made from sapphire and the printing looks really good. I love the shade of blue and white that they use. I think those two colors pair really well together, and they make the watch pop without looking too contrasty or even too subdued. The bezel is bidirectional, but unlike a regular GMT, this has 120 clicks instead of 24 clicks. I don't really mind that. I feel the bidirectional aspect is more important than the clicks, but the bezel action here is all over the place. Half the rotation has lighter and less defined clicks, and the other half has firmer clicks with more definition. It just feels inconsistent, and it's not exactly the best tactile experience. The crystal is a beautiful dome sapphire that's 2.5mm tall. It gives the watch a cool vintage look, especially with the distortion effect from acute angles. As good as it looks, this crystal is probably the biggest problem I have with this watch. I don't know if there's any AR coating, but it sure doesn't look like there is. There's a ton of glare on the crystal, and that glare appears in all lighting conditions. Indoor, outdoor, daylight, diffuse light, it doesn't matter what lighting it is, there's always some glare on the crystal. The crystal doesn't really give you a clear view of the dial, which is a shame, because there's a lot of great design cues on there. The dial is a matte blue with a very slight purple tint. You'll find the brand name and model printed at the top, and 3 lines of text at the bottom. I like the smiley Marine Nationale text they went with. It adds a touch of vintage playfulness to the look. You'll also find France proudly displayed at the bottom of the dial because, like all Yemas, this watch is made in their home country. The printed frame around the date cutout helps give the dial some nice visual balance. The applied indices look very well finished. I really like how they look, especially the cardinal indices at 6, 9 and 12 o'clock. The 12 o'clock indice looks particularly nice. There's 3 different pieces applied. I've not seen that on a watch before. It gives it a complex yet somehow elegant look. The minute and hour hands are flat and fully polished. They feel a bit undersized to me, and I think they look better with a brushed center and polished sides, but that's a small complaint. The yellow second hand matches the yellow print on the dial, and the skeletonized GMT arrow has that same shade of yellow on the tip. I feel that pop of color really sets off the dial. The base of the GMT hand is painted in the same shade as the dial, so it makes it look like the yellow GMT tip is kind of floating. That's a really cool design detail. The lume on this watch is stunning. There's an even application of BGW9 on the indices, hands, and bezel inset. The GMT arrow has a somewhat more green looking lume. I think it's a cool touch to differentiate it, but it's not as strong as the other lume elements. The caseback has a cool engraving of the Marine Nationale emblem. Under the caseback, you'll find the second generation Yema 3000 movement. It's a relatively new in-house movement that Yema released in 2021. While the jury is still out on the long-term performance and durability, the unit on mine performed flawlessly and kept quite great time. This is a collar GMT movement, so you'll use the GMT hand to track a second time zone instead of using a jumping hour hand. The trailing bracelet has a dramatic taper at the top, going from 20mm at the lugs to 16mm at the clasp. I really like that taper. It gives it a strong vintage look and just adds to the overall comfort. There's good articulation between the links, and the sides are rounded off without any sharp edges, but I was quite disappointed to see pins instead of screw links at this price point. The clasp is entirely brush, and it has 4 micro adjustment positions so you can tune in the perfect fit. The flip lock mechanism is friction fit. It opens and closes very smoothly, but the disappointment somewhat continues here. The outer shell of the clasp is actually stamped, and it's not milled. For comparison, my $200 Seaston has a mill clasp and on-the-fly adjustment, so I wasn't really expecting a stamp clasp on a watch that costs 7 times more than that. So, what do I think of the Yema Navygraf Marine Nationale GMT? This watch was so close to being the perfect GMT for me, but there are a couple of things that made it fall short right at the finish line. Visually, it looks incredible. You can see that the designers at Yema really put a lot of thought into this watch. From the elegant case shape, the shade of colors they chose, and the elements on the dial. Everything here looks absolutely beautiful. But I feel the build quality on some components doesn't really match up to that great design. The inconsistent bezel action, stamp clasp, and crystal glare are things that affected my everyday wearing experience. For $1,300, I expected these components to be much better. I love the designs that Yamaha have been putting out, but I really hope they find a way to match their build quality to the high standards of their designs. But I want to know what you think. Is the way a watch looks more important to you than how it feels? Let me know in the comments. For me, both of those go hand in hand. The way a watch looks might convince me to purchase it, but it's the way a watch feels that makes me fall in love with it.